Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Today we're speaking with Jana Burke, who is joining us and going to tell us all about her journey to becoming a life coach. She says with a question mark at the end. Is that what you would consider yourself, or do you have a different name for it? I know what you do. I just don't know how you do it.
I don't know. I don't have a life coaching background, but I do have a conscious parent coaching background. And then I have a background in, I'm a master practitioner for emotional freedom technique.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's all kind of like life coaching.
Kinda. I mean.
How did you get started in it?
So interestingly enough, I was struggling with my own parenting. Like I had this visual of what I wanted my family life to look like, which was very different from the way that I was raised. And I just couldn't figure out how to manifest it, how to make it happen. And my son had a lot of health problems that were very triggering for me. And I didn't have a lot of skills to be able to handle it and to be emotionally available for him and to try to help solve all of the things coming up. And I was stay-at-home mom, so I was like in charge of everybody's health. And so this dream I had of like, this is how I want my family's life to be, I could not figure out with all the chaos in our house. And like he would wake up at 4 a.m. and for the day and would scream like 6 or 7 times a night, like wake the whole house. And so I just was like, this is not what I wanted. And I kept defaulting to the way that I had been parented. And so after my health was failing from lack of sleep, and I was struggling with anxiety and depression, I was like, I have to get some kind of help. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know how we're going to pay for it, but I've got to do something. And so I ended up, investing in myself. I found a parent coaching program. I didn't even want to be a parent coach. I just knew I needed the tools that the program provided. Mm-hmm. And so I enrolled in that, and in about 8 months, like my whole parenting paradigm had shifted. And then I started working with parents, and I realized I didn't really want to help them with their parenting. I wanted to help them with their emotional struggles that they were having as a parent and holding that space for the family. So that's my long, short story of how I got started.
We help parents get a hold of their emotional health. It really does trickle off into helping their kids, because it's really the first place that you have to start.
Right.
It all starts with the individual.
Yes. Especially with moms. I feel like we hold so much for the family. When we're not feeling supported, or we're feeling unstable, or we're feeling, you know, like pulled in every direction thin, then it's sort of like chaos. Just whatever's going on in our mind, it all trickles out to the rest of the family. And when we can kind of heal those parts of ourselves and set healthy boundaries and, just connect, have deep, loving connections, then that trickles out into the rest of the family. So it is so much harder of a job than you realize. It's not just like raising children, you're also raising yourself in a lot of ways, and healing those parts of you that get triggered by your children, which is the greatest gift ever.
Right. Most days you don't think of it that way, but and people, when they have kids, they're still really kids themselves. And you don't, we all have trauma from our parents because, that's just how the cycle goes. But when you look back and you think, oh man, she was only 25 when that happened. It's like, God, she was still a baby herself. She wasn't even done yet.
Right. Yeah. Her brain was barely just fully developed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And but we as children expect so much from our parents, whereas we as parents are like, oh my God, I can't believe that's happening to me by my kids.
Right. Right. It's true. Well, and I always tell my clients, like, that child that triggers you so bad that you're just like, that child is the biggest gift to you, because they're showing you all of those parts of yourself that are unhealed. And it's giving you an opportunity to heal those parts of yourself. It's like, then you can kind of turn and be like, thank you for being, the trigger for me. So I could, heal those parts of myself and show up as my best self and, be in alignment with what feels right for me, instead of just those, generational patterns that we just keep passing down. And at some point, somebody has to say, enough is enough. I'm not going to take this generational pattern and put it on the next one. I'm going to be the one who changes that. And not an easy job, but such meaningful work and so powerful. I still remember my son saying to me, Mommy, when I get big, I want to be a parent coach. And I was like, really? Why? And he goes, because he was old enough to see like me shift. And he goes, yeah, I want to be a parent coach because I want to parent the way that you parent. And I was like, well, the beautiful thing is you're already going to parent the way I parent, because this is now the new pattern. Like, you don't have to learn it like I did. It's in you. And this is just going to be. So you don't have to be a parent coach. You can just be you, whatever you want to do. And this is now how it's going to be from here on out.
And then they'll grow up and then they'll move away. And then it's going to be like, you have a whole different dynamic. And it feels weird. I was a parent for most of my adult life. My youngest finally moved out this year, and I'm 63. So I've always had children in my home. Yeah. And it's so weird that they're all off doing things. And some of them are much older. Some of my kids are in their 40s, but some of them are still in their 20s. And it's interesting to watch them become parents. And the older ones have older kids, and they're having different dynamics going on in their lives. It's just, I love being at this part of my life and being able to watch what's happening and how their lives are evolving. It's fun.
So do you find that they're continuing like the legacy of your parenting in their own lives, or are they kind of shifting that?
Well, I had 2 sets of kids, and the first set was, I was really young and I was poorly parented. So I was a poor parent, and I've apologized profusely, and there's still wounds that my oldest is trying to heal from. But the younger ones, I felt like I had a do-over. And so we're all very close. And they are all 5 close among themselves. Even there's 20 years difference between the oldest and the youngest. But like my youngest son got married last year. My oldest daughter's a minister, and she officiated the wedding, and then all of the other kids were in the wedding. It was just so cool. And the grandkids
awesome.
were like the ring bearer and the flower girl. My granddaughter, she's so hilarious about the flower girl role. She takes this role so seriously. I mean, she practiced her twirls and flinging flower.
That's so cute.
And she wants to be the flower girl. She's put her name in the hat threw her name in the ring for a flower girl position at the next wedding coming up next year.
Here's my resume in case you need it.
I mean, she's like that.
That's awesome.
But that comes from her mom. Her parenting style is that she's very matter of fact, and she's so organized. Laura is an amazingly organized woman, and her daughter is kind of the same way. She's just like, those kids were so wanted. They struggled for a long time to have kids, and they ended up using surrogates. In fact, my oldest daughter was the surrogate for their first son.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of,
that's really cool.
Yeah. So in not helping parents, but helping parents, how does that look for you in your business?
Yeah. So I mostly focus on highly sensitive and empathic moms who struggle. They kind of swing between anxiety and depression, and also feel like they're not getting it right in life, feel like they're missing the instruction manual, and typically they struggle with low self-worth and self-esteem issues. And and I help them with deep listening and my intuition. And we do a lot of EFT, and one of my clients called me an emotional investigator. So I'm always looking for like the root cause of like what's going on for them, so that we can help them process through it and release it, so that they can, learn to trust themselves, learn to trust in the flow of life, let go of the need to control the outcome for everything. Realize their people pleasing skills is just a way to let them spin, and not necessarily to actually be beneficial or helpful in situations, and just really help them to tune into their inner guidance and be their own best friend. And it's powerful because it gives them an opportunity to really like stand in their power and to kind of look at what dynamics are playing out in their life and in their mind, and allow them to consciously look at those and choose a different path, not trying to like strong arm and override, but really healing those parts of themselves that need to be healed, so they can stand in that place of power and unconditional love for themselves. So that's the light work that I do.
EFT is powerful.
It is.
And it seems like it's so simple that it shouldn't be as life-changing as it can be. And I've had it, experienced it for myself. I've had somebody work with me with it to work through something that it was something really traumatic in my life. And just the rephrasing and reframing that happened in that process, it has shifted something that, as I said, I'm 63. This is something that happened to me when I was maybe 6 or 7. And I carried it all that time. from the framework of a 6 or 7-year-old. And it's like, I've totally come to terms with it. It's like, and then there's the money thing. You can tap for money. I know that works.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, and the interesting thing is, I think it's our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between our 6-year-old self and our 63-year-old self. It has no idea if it happened 6 minutes ago or 60 years ago. It doesn't know. It just knows that happened. And its job is to try to keep us safe, right? So it's going to come up with scenarios and things that it thinks are going to keep us safe. And that's its primary job. So I also mentor EFT students. And so is what I like to tell them is to think about the subconscious mind as like this record player. And it's like, what's on your record player, right? Like because that whatever, I think it's 90% of the thoughts we had yesterday, we have today, and 80% of them are negative, and most of them are subconscious. And so it's like, what is playing on that record player? Because it's constantly looking for proof and evidence that it's true. So if you have the belief of I'm not good enough, or nobody listens to me, or I'm invisible, or I don't matter, or I'm stupid, or I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not young enough, these are all things that we flippantly say in our society, and they're the belief in which you view your life through. And when things start to happen, like somebody cuts you off in traffic or whatever, your subconscious mind's going, see, I told you you're not good enough because that guy just cut you off. See, I told you you're invisible because your husband didn't pick up his socks. See, I told you nobody listens to you because your kids just ate that thing you asked them to not eat, or whatever. And so it's when you see it in that role, then you can start to go, okay, so maybe at some point in my life that benefited me, but it's no longer benefiting me. And it's just shining a light on those crevices within our mind so that we can bring them up, acknowledge them, like, hey, thanks for being here. You've played a role that at some point in time served me, and it's no longer. And so I'm going to process through. And like you said, once you're ready to release it, usually there's clarity or a mindset shift or something like that. And it can be used for very traumatic events. And you can go into the
PTSD.
matrix. Yes. I had CPTSD and CP. Yeah. Yes.
Whatever that is.
Yes.
PTSD with a C in front.
Yes. Yeah. And so much of, it can be healed. They've used it with veterans, and it really does. It helps so much in letting go of those beliefs that trigger us, that take us into the fight or flight or freeze mode. And it's like amazing that, our brains can change and heal and evolve for the rest of our lives. We don't have to be stuck in that place because that's where we are now. Like it is possible to change. And it's not just by saying like a positive affirmation or discounting or dismissing. It's by actually like acknowledging and processing and allowing it to heal.
And the idea that we have control over our thoughts. We can change them.
Right.
And the first step is just recognizing I'm having that thought. What do I want to do with it? I don't have to have an emotional reaction to everything that passes through my head. Right. Or my consciousness. And I think that has done so much to help people. I think more and more people are starting to see that there are tools to help them, because anxiety is it's so prevalent in our society right now.
Yeah.
I would ask you, how do you find your clients? But pretty much you just walk out your front door.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because even though I experienced anxiety, I interviewed about 12 women who experienced anxiety just so I could see what the commonalities and the patterns were. And it was so interesting to see that even though it might come from different places or it might play out a little bit differently, there's so many commonalities amongst it. And once you know, like now I know what to look for, then I can, I kind of know, I may not know where their trust issues came from, but I know they have trust issues. And it's probably not trusting themselves, not trusting others, and not trusting in the flow of life. And then I can sort of listen for those patterns that when they're talking, like, oh, maybe that's why they don't trust themselves. Because a lot of times abandonment comes up, but it's not necessarily abandonment issues from a parent or a lover or something like that. Usually it's self-abandonment. And so at what point in time did they abandon themselves? And maybe they had to survive. But now it's not serving them to be in that place of worrying about, they need to come home to themselves and start really standing up for themselves and articulating and becoming aware of like what they want. Because oftentimes everybody else comes first. They don't even know who they are or what they want anymore. So yeah, it is very prevalent.
I think especially as women get into their 40s and they're leaving childhood behind. And I can tell you, your best years are still ahead of you. I know we start freaking out about menopause and all these things that are going to start happening to us. And we've already had our kids. And it's like, what's next? I just spent 20 years raising a family, or 10 years, or that's a big chunk of your life at that point. It's a quarter to a third for a lot of these people. And you might have had a trajectory when you got out of college or high school that you were just going to do certain things. And, when you get older, like it never looks like what you thought it was going to look like. But it's helpful to know that there are these tools available to help you navigate like the next step and to kind of clear the slate for all of the stuff that you've accumulated up to that point.
Yeah, and take an inventory of what's no longer serving you. And, the only constant is that you're always there, right? So, and it's interesting because this morning I was on a client call and my client was, we were talking about her, we were doing a bunch of tapping around her tendency to like overthink and overanalyze and try to constantly fix everything for everybody. And she realized it's because her dad really wanted her to be like a people pleaser, to be accepted. And so she was realizing she doesn't have to be a people pleaser anymore, but she still goes into overthinking to try to fix everything for everybody. But everybody doesn't always want her to fix everything for them. So instead of her going into that place of fix mode, and then everybody's like, no, we don't want your help, and then she gets her feelings hurt, maybe she can stand back and say like, is there any, when they tell her something, is there a way that you need my support? And then think about when she starts to try to fix, like she's also robbing them of the opportunity to be the hero of their own journey. Because she's trying to insert herself into
as the hero. Yeah, that's really powerful.
So yeah, like just thinking like, okay, now where like you don't have to go down the rabbit hole. You can stay outside the rabbit hole. And especially with highly sensitive and empathic people, we want to take everybody's pain away for them. We want that to make it better. We want to, we don't mind bearing the burden, but at the same time, we don't realize we're robbing them the opportunity for their growth and what they're needing to do.
Mm-hmm. And that translates to kids often too.
Mm-hmm.
As parents, it's easy to look at your child and say, oh, I can solve that problem for you. And really, they need to figure it out.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's sometimes hard to stand there and watch them fall and fall and fall and fall. But you need to be on the sidelines going, go, get up again. I know you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was talking to her about, just using empathy, right? Like just listening, because we all know how it is to be in a situation where you tell somebody something and then they get upset and then you're trying to calm them down. And I'm like, that takes like, then you're not a person they can count on to go talk to, because now they're trying to console you. So like, if you just use empathy where you listen without judgment and you hold the space for your kids, for parents, for whoever, loved ones, siblings, like, and just repeat back what you hear, not trying to fix, not trying to manipulate, not comparing it to your own situation, just really listening without judgment, repeating back, and then exploring a solution if that's what they need. Do you need me to help you with this? And if not, sometimes them just talking about it and you holding that space, they come up with a solution on their own. And that's so much more empowering for them. And it also gives them the tools to be able to navigate life up and downs and to be more emotionally, their EQ, I think they call it, your emotional intelligence, so because you're then able to kind of stand back there, and then that you're modeling for them how to do that too. And you can keep your energy separate from them, but at the same time offer, how do you need my assistance? What do you think about that? Things like that can help everybody to stay a little bit more.
And if you can help them, you can make the offer.
Yeah.
But you need to recognize no is just as good as answer as yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe is just not taking responsibility for an answer, and you need to be good with whatever their answer is.
Mm-hmm.
If they say no, that's going to be fine.
Right.
That was a hard lesson for me to learn. And I was kind of that person like you were talking about. It's like, I'm really good at solving problems. It's my superpower. I can see how to do things and it's really easy for me. But not everybody wants that. And it's totally fine.
Right. Right. So how did you come to terms with that?
I think I just got burned enough times. It was like, hey, I don't have to keep helping people. And the whole, I don't need to be everybody's problem solver. I have enough of my own problems. Maybe I should just watch, because sometimes it's fun to watch. Sometimes they fail, but sometimes they succeed. It's like, wow, look at them go.
Right. Yeah. It's funny, whenever I go into fix it mode, like I forget and I default to my fix it mode, my son will be like, why are you being such a weirdo? And I'm like, oh, I'm in fix it mode. Sorry. Because he's not used to me being in fix it mode. So he calls me out on it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really good. I think my youngest child is probably the one that helped me the most with just watching. Just watch her do stuff. The other kids were boys in the middle, so I didn't want to see what they were doing. Fully recognized when you got sons, sometimes it's better if you don't know. Till the police come. And even then, it's like, please don't tell me, just, I'll show up at court when you want me to. But they learn. That's how they learn. It's how young men become, responsible adults. They pay the price for their stupidity, and hopefully they don't die in the process.
Yeah. Well, that part of their teenage brain is, that part is developing where that risk-taking part. So it's super normal for them. And I feel like societies used to be set up more for them to have these like coming of age experiences where they could prove like, I'm ready to be a man. And we don't have that so much anymore. And so sometimes that risk behavior part of the brain that's really potent at that time is looking for some way to do it. And they still don't have full access to the higher part of their brain. So it's like, they're still kind of in and out of that part. So sometimes when they're out of it, there's choices that are made,
And they're not always the best choices, but yeah, I've watched them go through it, and it's like on the other side, they step up, they're kind, they're helpful, and they're not afraid to take a chance.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what you need in young men, I think. You need it in young women too. But societies are kind of just coming around to the idea that young women can be an independent human being, and they're going to make decisions, and they generally make better decisions than young men at that point in their lives because their brains develop a little faster.
Right.
One of the species has to keep us from all killed off by stupid decisions.
And, I think us loving them unconditionally through it all, right? They're probably beating themselves up in their own mind. They don't need us to do it too. So it's just like, just being that constant, like, I love you and I'm always here on your side. And, I'm always going to be your biggest cheerleader. And,
And
you
God,
need a
the person that tries to like tell me how to raise you or tries to interfere in my relationship with you, because they're not going to fare well. Mama Bear stepping in.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then it's also just us giving ourselves grace, right? Because so much we feel like we need to take responsibility for everything everybody does. And,
we don't. We don't even have to really take responsibility for the things we've done in our past. They happened. Get over it. You can apologize, but at some point, you just got to move on and try to be better. But you can't change what's already happened.
Right. Yeah.
And dwelling on that isn't going to make it change. It's just going to rob you of the joy that now has to offer.
Right. And I think our children, when they see us striving, nobody is perfect. They're going to see that we're not perfect, but they can see that we're striving. And that is, all we can really ask for is that we can model, how to be in this world and how to, co-create life and all of that kind of stuff. And that we can model that we made a mistake, how to apologize, and then how to move forward in a healthy way. So,
right. Not do that same thing again.
Right.
Because that's an apology without a change in behavior is just an excuse.
Yeah.
Please excuse my behavior.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It makes it more meaningful when you actually make a change or seek help to help you make the change or whatever that is. So, it helps everybody. And it shows them that it's okay to ask for help when they need it. Because we all do sometimes.
More and more, there are people out there that can actually help you make the changes that you want to make in your life.
Mm-hmm.
People like you.
Yeah.
So what's the one thing you would hope that people would take away from this conversation today?
Gosh, that's such a good question. That the one thing I always tell my clients is if you experience anxiety or depression or low self-worth, that you are not those things. There's something you experience, because oftentimes we say, oh, my anxiety, my depression, my self-esteem issues, right? Like we take ownership of them. And when we take ownership of them, we're not giving ourselves an opportunity to just see that this is something we're experiencing. And it's also something we can process and heal and move to the other side of. So I think that's the biggest takeaway that I would like them to see, is that you can evolve, you can change, and you can have a different experience if that is your choice, to not be experiencing the, not great emotions, or, beating yourself up in your mind, or whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't have to be like that. There is help, and there is opportunities for you to grow and to change and to find joy and inner peace and happiness, and to love yourself unconditionally. Even if nobody else ever has, you can do that for yourself. And that's the greatest gift you can give yourself.
Really is the greatest gift. Once you realize that the only person's love that you need is your own, and other people will come and go in your life. But if you can enjoy yourself, if you can love yourself, and the time that you spend with yourself makes life so much better.
Yeah.
So how can people, go ahead.
No, go on. No, it's okay.
Okay. I was going to ask, how can people get in touch with you?
So they can email me at GANNA@GANNABURKE.com, or at gmail.com. Well, gosh, now I'm messing it all up. I wasn't prepared to say that, but I also have a very, very, very simple website, and it's www.GANNABURKE.com. That I do now. It's
okay. And they can contact you through there if they want to. And you're on all the normal spots, Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we'll put the links in the description so people can reach out to you.
Thank you, Jill, so much. This is wonderful.
Thanks for joining me. It's been great having you here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.